Hey, Svitlana.
Hello, Arne.
I have some good news and I have some bad news. What do you want to hear first?
I like to hear bad news first, so then we end on a good
I
note.
understand, but I will still tell the good news first.
So, what was the point of even asking?
I was hoping you would say the good news, please. But yeah, normally you want to hear the bad news first. So, good news is you made a Fritz trainer, and that is amazing. And now comes the bad news. It's not out yet, but soon it will appear. Soon it will come out. We will, of course, mention this. And to give you a little bit of a sneak preview, you at home watching this, thank you so much for watching this. Svetlana decided to give a little bit of an insight of what the Fritz trainer is about and teach us a bit about the whole idea of this Fritz trainer. Your turn, Svetlana.
Yeah. So today will be a bit of a special episode because we have a DAD coming out soon, which will be about material imbalances. And it's a topic that I personally really love because in my opinion, it's some of the most interesting positions that you can ever get in chess. They're usually with some sort of material imbalance, and I'm really excited whenever I get them in my own games. But at the same time, I found it difficult sometimes to evaluate these positions correctly or find the right plans because I didn't know what general guidelines to even follow. Um, and so this is why I decided to make the DVD on this topic specifically to show people how usually to evaluate these positions, how you should proceed whenever you get something like that in your own game. Um, so it will be somewhat similar to the lesson today, but the examples today are different from what will be in the Fritz trainers, just so there will be no overlap, but I will show one little sneak peek at the end after.
Nice.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I think, yeah, I completely agree. This is, I love the theme. I love this idea too of the imbalance. And yeah, so I can see at the moment it doesn't seem imbalanced.
Right. So this is actually a very, very recent game. Have
Oh,
you been following the US
oh,
championship by any chance? Those who have been following will definitely recognize this game.
oh my lord. Yes, you couldn't be more recent. Yeah, it's absolutely up to date. That is Fabiano Caruana against Sam Shankland. Oh my gosh.
Right. Have you seen the game?
I couldn't. It was too late for me. I went to bed around 10 o'clock, so
Mm.
unfortunately not.
This
But
was right yesterday. At the moment we
yeah,
were recording this, this was yesterday's game, and it
nice.
was a very important one because this is the last round, and well, Fabiano is fighting for first place, and the game itself ended in a draw, but it was a very, very fighting draw. And what we had here was actually an imbalance that has appeared, which is not on the board yet because I wanted to give you this position first and tell you and ask you if you would go for it as black. I assume you see how to get the imbalance, but the question is, would you have gone for that imbalance as black, or would
Hmm.
you just do something simpler?
Okay, can you do me a favor and turn the board around? Okay, so this is black's position. So probably the imbalance can be. Actually, oh yeah, now I see it. Okay, so yes, it is a queen sacrifice on e5, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that is the imbalance. Would you choose to go for it?
Yeah, I would choose
And
to go for it.
that is what Sam Shankland picked to do in this game as well.
Yeah.
There was the calmer way, which was to go c5 and just go for some sort of end game like this. Probably around equal, maybe just better chances for white to press here, but this would have been the calmer option. So he went for queen takes e5, and he transpose into an imbalance, which is a queen against a rook and a bishop. So if you count the material, it's 8 against 9 points, but usually it's around it around balances out depending on piece activity, right? It's all these positions are all about piece activity, king's safety. Those two are usually the most important factors. So what I think Shankland was hoping for was to get the white king into a bit of a mating net almost. So so he definitely did develop some attack. How would you evaluate this position? Do you think black's compensation is enough, or would you rather play this for white? What do you think?
Very interesting thought. So the more I think of it, the more difficult it gets for me to think of a mating net. I wouldn't even know how to get there. So, of course, there is...
I think his idea is around something like rook f8,
yes,
some rook g3.
Exactly, but I wouldn't be scared as white now, I think.
Well, I think Caruana was a bit scared. And
well, probably. He knew exactly what is threatening. I don't see it that much yet, unfortunately. So,
so you would pick white?
Now, I first chose black, and now that I made the wrong move, I would pick white, yeah.
Nice. Just switching sides here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Do you mind if we switch sides? Okay, good. Because I don't like my position that much anymore. Okay,
so
perfect.
Let's switch sides then and watch it from white's perspective. So you're right about the evaluation. According to the computer, white is winning, but it's of course not as simple for a human, especially when it's a high stress game. But the queen tends to be stronger here, because the whole idea is that the queen can just pick up a lot of these pawns very quickly while black is busy with an attack. And if there is no attack, then you're just down 3 pawns, right? And essentially there is no attack. There is no mate. There is an attack, but there's just no mate.
Yes, I have the feeling, and this is the scary part, but yeah, I don't see a mate attack as well. So yes, of course, there is a check.
You have to play very accurately, though, because it's not definitely not too simple. So the second rook comes in, and how would you defend here?
So now my thought, or my second thought, is, did Shankland really want to try to attack Caruana now? Or did he calculate a lot of moves to try to get the 3 repetition rule? Or like, trying to check?
Right. I think at first he wanted to get an attack, and like if it doesn't work out, he thought he would have had some perpetual. I don't think he was really against the draw here, against a repetition. I mean, if he didn't see the mate.
Yeah.
But I do think that when he was initially going for it, he did think he would have a very strong attack. I think I watched what he said after the game, and he said that this whole queen sacrifice thing was based on a miscalculation. He thought he had rook f8 somewhere, and there would be almost
no way to escape. Okay.
And he missed some sort of defensive move, like rook g2 or something like that like forces a rook trade. I don't remember exactly, but he did say that because he miscalculated some line, then he misevaluated this attack and thought it was better than it actually is.
Yeah. So
he defended white, though. It's not as simple.
Talking about defense for white, rook g2 was the exact idea I had in mind as well. I think it is almost forced. I think black cannot really... I mean, there is a check on h3, sure, and the king goes to g1. But there is a mate threat against black now.
Okay, well, what about bishop g3?
That's nice. So it is a bit scary out of a sudden. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, so
I'm not really liking this for white now, because maybe I'll go if ever needed, I'll take one of the pawns and I'll have
Oh, and
some
that's a
checks too. Well, now
defense
there's
too.
mate,
Yeah, so the
so
king has to go to
I should go
f1,
this.
and then it gets difficult. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at the very least, we can somehow like defend with bishop e5, but I have a feeling that what this is not what white wants. You know,
Okay.
he's still not out of.
Okay, so yeah, rook g2, not immediately. Maybe it's just a Yeah, okay. So how about a check on c8 with the queen and then take the pawn on e6 and defend the spot on h3 like this?
That is what he played.
Aha, okay.
So he did end up playing this, and we're approaching move 40. So it was important to make the time control here. So he did play queen e6, and now rook g6. So most of these moves are forced. Queen was attacked, now the king is attacked, and here he had to find some only moves with the king.
Yeah.
So he had to be careful not to get caught into some discovered check.
Yes.
So he calculated right. He went to the right spot with the king. These were some of the only moves that do keep a winning advantage.
Wow,
so
what a game.
It's still not over. So now there's another mate threat. He plays rook c1. This is the right way to defend, because if he plays something like rook e2, he's blocking his own escape square to e2. So he had to be careful to play rook c1. And this one is the most critical moment in the game, because here I believe he spent something like half of his time or a long while picking out the right continuation, and he didn't end up choosing the right one. So I will ask you, what do you think was the winning solution for white?
Oh, yeah, tough. Interesting. So the rook cannot move. I mean, the rook can move, but it doesn't make that much sense for me.
But also, if you think about it, black's pieces also cannot really move. This rook,
it's funny.
Forever pinned. This bishop has to be guarding this and this.
Yeah.
This rook, well, if it wants to keep the mate threat, it has to stay here. So it's kind of funny how
it is.
Both are a bit. Both sides are a bit stuck with their pieces.
Yeah. So so the king can move, the rook can't move, the queen shouldn't move. I see only e6, but I don't think it's very good.
You got to the right move by the process of elimination.
Yeah.
So it was right. It is not what he played. He played rook d1 instead. But e6 was right. It's not as simple as it looks, kind of. So now the idea is that if black, doesn't move any of his pieces and just keeps them on the same spots, then let's say c4, e5, this is sort of a zugzwang, right? Because the bishop, like I said, has to stay here. The rook and the king are pinned. So now the rook has to go somewhere, I guess. I mean, I don't know, what else are you going to play? h5?
Yeah, true.
And whenever one of the pieces moves away, then we win the c-pawn or some promotion, some e7 happens. So this would have been a funny zugzwang where, it's a board full of pieces, but none of them can really
crazy
on a great spot. But what both of them have calculated and why they didn't consider it actually is, so what I was surprised is none of them considered this during the game to be winning. And I think the reason was that, so rook g3, of course, probably the most logical move that you can play. And now that the rook takes, first the check, and then rook goes back to g5, and looks like e7 is not working anymore.
But I think it does work, actually, right?
No, it doesn't, because now there's rook g2 check. And the bishop wins it. So this is why the rook g1 check first was important.
Amazing. Nice.
So yeah, but the queen can just go to f8, and it's still, of course, not simple, but apparently the computer says that this is winning for white, And this is a better version of what he could have had, because he's going to grab all of these. The queen can still go here, and it's this pawn is going to be a passer, this pawn is going to be a passer, and according to the computer, this should be a clear win for white. But I do understand that it's not, that you wouldn't really necessarily think so when you're calculating it from very far ahead. And it wouldn't be that clear to just know that this position is definitely winning. So this is why they didn't go for this e6 move, and instead played rook d1. And apparently this was the big mistake, which after which he no longer had winning chances. It's just one move that can really change a lot. So now the thing is, it's quite simple for Black to find the right moves, because he only has so many moves. He only has one or two ideas at his disposal.
Yeah.
So he plays c4 now. So the whole problem is that we can never take the c pawn anymore once the rook has moved to d1. So now he plays e6. But
how can I? Sorry to interrupt, but I thought the whole idea of this rook to d1 was playing it to d6, but that is not working.
Do that? Yeah, he cannot do that. So I think he was making a waiting move, just like rook d1 and.
Sorry. Yes, of course. Like no. That was so stupid. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh no, don't worry. So now the c pawn is suddenly doing a good job, because if there's ever some rook coming here, the problem is the king will have trouble escaping through d3, as he could have done before. So now he can't do that with c4 already on the board. So e6 did happen, but it was a bit too late now to do that. So, well, e7 is not working either. So he tried to go on the offensive himself, and after some checks, the rook came here, and he is basically forced to sacrifice his queen, or else or else there's some checks, maybe even some mates ideas, because now once the queen moves away, this rook will be free, right? And yeah, so here he actually had a sort of a repetition, which I was surprised he didn't want to go for. So he could have made a repetition here. Maybe the difficult part was to find that you can't repeat moves now, and you have to play e7, and after that you would only get some sort of a draw, I guess, after rook g2, and then the bishop just sacrifices itself. But maybe this was a more difficult draw to go for. But the thing is, he played e7. Of course, makes sense. So now once again, Black is forced to find the right the right continuation, because he just has nothing else. So this position ended up even easier for Black to play than it was for White. So now rook g1, of course, the rook could not have gone to e6. So it goes from the back and makes sure that the pawn doesn't promote. So you can never take with the bishop, because this is with check.
That's check, yeah.
So rook g1, and now it is White who is in trouble, and he only has one saving move. Do you think you can find what it is?
It says playing music. Am I playing music? Oh, it's am I doing something here? No, it's probably, I don't know.
In your head, playing in your head, maybe some voices.
Yeah, no, but it says audio settings, and I wonder where the heck this is coming from. This is so awkward. Anyway, so I'm looking at f6, but it's so odd. But
sometimes the odd moves are right.
It has to work, because of course you cannot take back with the bishop, otherwise you get a queen.
Exactly. That is the problem. The bishop cannot leave his protection of e1, because then the queen would promote, and capturing with the g pawn is impossible too, because the queen promotes with check now. So f6 was a very important move to play. So you could not have promoted right away because of rook e1. And you also, if you move away the king, then you're suddenly in a bad rook endgame where you're down a pawn and with not very good chances to win, I would say, for white.
Yeah, this looks tough.
So f6 was the only saving move, which he did find. But I do think it's quite unpleasant to play this position already when you feel like you were winning, but you missed something, and now you're just in this endgame, and it is a bit too late to try to create some initiative with your queen. So now rook e6.
I thought king g6. Okay, rook e6 makes sense. Yeah, king g6 doesn't.
6 isn't there. Well, I
think it just take on g7. I think
it just takes on g7.
That's nice. Yeah.
So rook e6 was
difficult.
The solution, and now he had a choice of 2 endgames. One of them was rook d8, and this endgame looks like a draw.
Another imbalance. Yeah.
Right. So here though, black has a bit too many pawns, so it's
even tougher for white. Yeah.
They're all defended, and they will be defended. So it's not really an endgame where you can have too much counterplay for white, and it's just a draw. So nothing too special for either side. But he went for another one, which I don't know if it's less safe, but maybe it makes a bit more sense to go for a rook endgame, just because that's what we are used to. And my question for you here, now we get to another very important moment. You have an option to trade rooks or not to trade rooks. So that is the question. Would you have made that trade?
As white. Okay, let me calculate. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, 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 bam. Oh. No, you cannot trade. You will lose. Sorry. You have to, if you takes b4.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about king. Yeah, king e7, right?
King e6 happened in the game.
Okay, it even happened. Yeah.
It even happened, yeah, because that endgame is safe. So you probably thought that this was lost, but we'll come back to it. So the reason why he didn't want to trade was just because this is a rook endgame down a pawn, which is very difficult because your pawns are not really going anywhere, while these two are going to start running very quickly.
Yep.
So if you had no other choice, you would have gone for it, but he very accurately calculated that this is indeed a draw. And the reason for that is there had to be some very precise calculation here. King e6, and now the idea is not to take on a5, but to play b5. So you create a protected passed pawn and compensate for these two, because as long as your king can get here in time, which it does. So the reason why this endgame is a draw is because the black king can never go and get your pawn here, because then this one promotes. And so this king is tied to defending b5, and your king is just tied to defending these passed pawns. So this is why it is ended up being a draw.
Beautiful.
So isn't that a fascinating game?
Totally.
I thought it had so many had so many twists, and the fact that this is the last round in the most high stakes game, and it did end up being a draw. I do believe they're playing the tie breaks today, so that will be interesting to see.
Absolutely, yeah. So who do you think will win of the three? It's Caruana, and Sevian.
Yeah. I think I'm rooting for Caruana. How about you?
I'm going for Sevian. Just because I always go for the weaker person.
I was gonna say he I think is considered the underdog. At least he wasn't expected to be
Yeah,
in.
definitely not. I didn't
But he
have him
did
on
have
the
a good
list at
tournament.
all.
Yeah, they all. It was a very tough field.
Totally, yeah. Crazy, crazy interesting tournament. Very, very nice. Absolutely. Svitlana, this was super well prepared. I mean, you didn't have much time to do this. This was really, really insightful. And we had the imbalance. How fitting is
Right,
that?
right. I thought I just because I knew we were gonna have the lesson today, and it just suddenly struck me that wait, this one game that I saw today is actually
Mm,
an imbalance too. So I have another one which I think we can look at quickly.
okay.
This is one of my own games which also had the same type of imbalance, a rook and a piece against a queen.
Hmm.
And I was the side with the queen here. And it was after this game that I started thinking that maybe I should do something about my imbalances. How do I really learn to
How
play these positions
funny.
correctly? So yeah, this was around 2 years ago or
Uh-huh.
somewhere around that. I was playing against an international master this game, and I was white here. So I played Queen C2, and do you see a way for black to force an imbalance here?
Well, yeah, pretty straightforward. Queen takes g3 and the rook takes on f3. And
Exactly. So
once again, I prefer black.
you prefer black. Mhm.
Yes.
Well, black seems to be the side on the offensive. Actually, whenever I see this rook and piece against queen, somehow the side with the rook and piece is always attacking, right? You will. I guess you see that more often because I think whenever someone sacrifices it, like they do it for a reason because they have.
Absolutely, yeah. The activity. And that
Mhm.
can be decisive in many, many ways. Exactly. So yeah. So although it is
You would pick this as black, you said.
yeah, but this is so funny. You know, I'm in a bit of a dilemma, and this is the second time I already see that. Look, imbalances are really fascinating. My goodness. So I just thought like, yeah, this is great. The imbalance is gonna work out for black. But now that I see, oh well, fair enough. Okay, this is quite an activity, and there's some nice moves for black. But there's also those pawns on G and H for
Mm-hmm.
white, and
Yeah,
if
there's
you
also
can
pawns, and the queen, if you let it in, it's the strongest piece on the board for a reason.
exactly yes. So that's why I was sure, and now I'm totally unsure once again. I feel like playing an endgame where I see the winning move, and then I'm like, yeah, oh, that was. I'm so happy I saw this. Oh, I'm losing now. Oh, okay.
Well, the fact that you're unsure, you're pretty much right because I would say that this is rather unclear, and the
Yeah.
engine gives it as an equal, but I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
it's one of those equal positions which you have no idea. You have no
Yes.
idea who is better here in a practical game. So, would you, as white, let's say, because well, I was white in this position, would you be approaching it from a more defensive side, or would you try to go a bit more on the offensive?
Oh, such good questions. Well, I believe since black chose the activity, you can go for either or. Well, it's probably a personal thing. I mean, I like my pawns there, so I would probably. My queen cannot move at the moment, but after b4,
That is what I played in my
yeah.
game. There were some calmer options like, King B1 and stay
Uh-huh,
more or less
okay.
on that. I played
Now,
B4.
that's good.
Um, and we get here. So it's still not simple. The pawn is hanging. So I have to,
Annoying.
yeah, so I have to make some defensive moves for
Yeah.
now.
So
But
now the
soon,
rook, yeah.
yeah, the rook is coming.
Oh,
Now
it
there's
looks,
bishop.
that looks,
Ideas.
oh
Second rook.
gosh, oh
Scary,
gosh.
right? But not for me because my king went for a king walk here on to b3.
Oh,
So
wow,
it's
okay.
the position is really full of tactics, and it was really tough to calculate. Um, so if we are talking about material in total, I have a queen and two pawns for a rook and a bishop, right? So I do have those two extra pawns. So it's one of those situations where once again, if the attack doesn't work, then the material will make itself felt in an endgame. So for example, whenever you're in a situation like that and you're under attack, if you can trade a pair of rooks here, that's what you should do. Here is just that I have no chance to do it yet, but if you can trade some pieces, that's usually good. Well, for the side with the queen, I guess. If you have a queen and some pawns, right? So
certainly.
That could be one of the general guidelines to follow. So now rook g3, what he played, he tried to get rid of some of the pawns. It was a mistake, actually. And try to guess which move I played after. I'm fascinated. Whenever I found this game, I'm like, can't believe I played like this. What a fearless person I was.
King a4?
King a4, right. Trying to replicate Short's king walk, except going in another direction. So king a4 is what I played. It's one of the two winning moves. The other winning move is c5. But this one was probably even simpler, to be honest. Because there's a potential that you can get another imbalance like this. So that's another thing which I have in the DVD. So we have like queen against the pieces, queen against two rooks, and also rook against two pieces.
So important,
In this situation with the two pieces against the rook, I would definitely prefer the side with the rook, because generally in the end games, the rook has a lot of open files, has a lot of things to do, has a lot of targets to attack. And of course, the extra passed pawn does help a lot, because that usually ties one of the opponent's pieces to always defending it. So this type of endgame, definitely good for the side with the rook, and just in general, endgames are nice to play with a rook.
Once you told me, I don't know which lesson it was, I will find out, but once you told me about this, I was really what? I was so sure that knight and bishop or two minor pieces will always have an advantage against the rook, but when you told me and explained it to me and I saw the games, then that changed my mind. So
I think it's because we're used to thinking that in the middle game.
Exactly, yeah.
In the middle game, you're right. The two pieces are stronger for an attack. But in endgames, when there's passed pawns, when there is a lot of open files, the rook does gain in strength. Instead, I played king a4, which was different from c5, but still, I'm surprised that my king went for such a walk onto a4, and surprisingly it's safer there than it would have been on somewhere like b1. So now I went rook g1. So as I said, exchanging is to white's advantage here. Just whenever you're the side getting attacked, of course the exchanging is to your advantage. So black avoids it, and I went for a more active approach. I got tired of defending and played c5. So I want to get to one last one moment here where there was only one winning move for white. And what do you think it is? It's a very subtle.
I would just if it's subtle, then probably not. I would have immediately thought about queen to c2 with the mate threat.
That is what I played, and it wasn't the right move. So
damn it.
The subtle difference was that instead of queen c2, you had to play queen c1, which is like, what?
Come on.
Why is it such a big difference? But apparently it is. So the thing is, after queen c2, my opponent didn't notice it, but knight c5 was the option that he could have gone for. So he gives up the knight, but he gets mine back. And later he has this sort of rook, like rooks together connected, which will just keep giving checks forever. Or I guess I shouldn't definitely allow these checks. Something like this apparently is now sort of a weird equality, because my queen can never leave or else checks will start. So my queen has to stay here, and I can never take this either because of c4.
The bishop.
Yeah, the bishop is sneaky here. Or, well, not king b4.
Of course, no, but a3 and the bishop
a3,
is...
yeah. some sneaky bishop move, and apparently this is some weird equality. So this is why queen c1 is more precise, because on queen c1, knight c5 is met with king b5. And now the whole difference is that I don't even want the knight, and I'm going queen a1. So now from c2 it couldn't have gone to a1 to a2. So c1, queen c1 to a1, and suddenly it is white who will be mating.
This tactic is this is worth to put into a study, I think. Like, how beautiful is that? Come on.
Right.
That's
just
amazing.
The fact that there's such a subtle difference. And well, I did not see that whole thing during the game, and I played queen c2 instead. And yeah, so he didn't notice knight c5 either, and I still got a good position, and I could have won quite easily here if I had just found queen d8, with the idea that the queen comes here, and the rook and the queen are both working really well here, and there would be end up being mate. So this is winning.
Yeah, but of course, isn't it white's move now?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay, that's why I was irritated.
So the idea is queen d8 now, and then you threaten that.
Thank you. I didn't see that. Yeah, sorry. All right, yes.
But instead I was greedy and I played queen b7, and I did end up losing this game because now black takes over the initiative. So suddenly just one move, and
oh no. Oh, this must feel so horrible.
Yeah, but it's... Yeah, so it ended up, we played some more moves, but just the point is that black is now taking over the attack, and I don't have my extra pawns anymore, and I don't have the mate. But this was kind of the game that really sparked my interest more in the topic of imbalances, because I realized that when I was playing this, well, I was just purely calculating. I didn't really have any general like guidelines to follow, or like know what plans to go for. So that was one of my imbalance games, which was somewhat similar. Well, I mean, in the type of imbalance, it was similar to the first game that we looked at with Caruana, except he used his pieces a bit better than I did, and he did end up drawing the game and even had winning chances. So,
but yeah, for what you said earlier, it's one of the most, I mean, those games are almost always exciting.
Right.
Yeah, and it is,
I
and it's so exciting because it's also a thing where, yeah, as you mentioned it, like, you're like, okay, I learned everything about chess. Well, wait a second. I don't know what to do here. Am I better or worse? How's the evaluation? What is going on here?
Honestly, the more you learn about chess, the more you realize that you don't know anything about chess.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you're making. Yeah.
So I do have one more, which is very quick, but it is the sneak peek that I promised from the DVD. It is going to be a fortress that I can show you to make a draw somewhere very unexpected. So what do you think usually is the evaluation? Like, when looking at a position like that, let's say you have two pieces against a queen, do you think this is winnable, or do you think there is a way to make a fortress in general?
Well, I mean, oh, it's so difficult to say. I mean, there are sometimes positions which are occurring like this, and I think black can build a fortress, but then of course Dr. Carsten Müller mentioned Magnus Carlsen, who said there are no fortresses, which of course is a bit over the top, but what he meant by this is like, yeah, but I would not know in this position. I mean, I would say black can build a fortress. So what's the solution?
Right. Well, I already kind of gave you a hint that it is going to be a fortress.
Yeah.
But in general, all of these, like, two pieces against the queen, I would say you probably are going to lose this one, because you'll miss some sort of tactic somewhere, except this one, this one setup, which if you're in the right corner, kind of, if you're in the right place, and if you know what to set up, you can actually make this a fortress. I thought this fortress was quite fascinating. So the way to make a draw here is to play knight d5. So that's the first that's the first step.
Funny. I thought about bishop b5 for I don't know what reason, yeah.
I
But
know.
yeah,
So
okay.
we keep the knight and the bishop defended. So now if white doesn't make any progress, then we're gonna get to it. But if white does try to sort of get closer, here we can even have some fork tricks, but this is going to depend on the position of the king. But let's say even king a7 can work.
Oh.
And, you can have some tricks like that. So you can, that works in only this specific position, but
Sure.
I'm just saying that whenever you have a knight, just always look for these forks and things like that. So the point is, the position that I want to get to is this one.
Okay.
So look at this bishop and king and knight position. So bishop is protecting these squares, knight is protecting these squares, and point is, there's no way that the white king is ever going to get close enough to checkmate us.
Beautiful.
And this works the same way in all corners. You just have to go to the right corner of your corner of your bishop.
Oh, yes. My lord. Yeah, so there is truth in the corner and the bishop on the white squares. Wow.
So it works the same way in this corner if your bishop is dark squared.
Yeah, of course. I thought so, but it wouldn't work, of course, if your bishop is not dark squared up there.
Yeah, there's going to be, because usually when you're in the corner, there's going to be some tactic and the queen is going to win one of your pieces. But I just thought to show you this one fortress, which I mean, you're rarely going to get a queen against two pieces, but this is just one of the things that I did include in the Fritztrainer, because I thought it was kind of a cool fortress, which was quite easy to remember, because once you visualize this whole wall kind of that you're making, and there's no way for white to ever break through, to ever get through that, it does end up being a draw, which is quite surprising. And yeah, I thought this was an interesting fortress, which I didn't even know. I didn't think it was. I wouldn't have come up with it over the board. It's just it's just interesting that something like that actually works, but it does. So that's one of the fortresses that I do talk about in the Fritztrainer.
The good thing about this is, first of all, I think, but I might be wrong. Bishop and knight against the king is something which also rarely ever happens, but still every grandmaster or almost every title player I know says, like, every couple of years I'm looking at how it works again to remember all of the...
Do you know how to checkmate?
I did it once, and I think the last time when I was doing this was 5-6 years ago, so I probably forgot again, but there is a system about this.
There is a system.
But
I can show you after it. Like maybe in a future lesson too. It's a very specific process to remember, and once you remember it, like you remember it.
Well, apparently not. But you know what? I think what I really like about this fortress is that there is one idea or one setup which says if you can set up your pieces in a way that the king cannot get to you, this is probably going to be a fortress. I wouldn't know at the moment in which other case this can also happen, but if you have 1 or 2 or 3 pieces left against a queen or a rook or something, you might be able to have a very similar setup like that, where the opponent king just cannot move through, and then that's it. That's done. That's end of story.
Yeah, and just to say, it doesn't matter where the white king is. It's like it just cannot get through. But in the beginning position that I showed, it was a bit tactical. So the point is to just get to here. Like once you get to here, then you're safe. But in the beginning position, if the king was somewhere else, then this is more difficult because you don't have your
forks. Okay.
Yeah, there's no forks here, but it was just some extra tactical thing. But the point is, if if it's like this, then it works in no matter where the king is.
Uh-huh.
But before your pieces get there, you do have to get here first.
Nice.
For it to be.
Excellent. I like that a lot. You can unshare the screen. So, yeah, that was a little sneak peek, even with one of the like lessons in the new Fritztrainer from Svitlana, the imbalances of the pieces. A lot of material. I haven't watched it yet because it's not out yet, but soon it will be out. So put that on your wish list, on your imaginary wish list. And yeah, we will keep you up to date, of course. And for now, don't worry though, we still have the 60 minutes. In 60 minutes, The Lazy Sicilian by Svitlana, which out of a sudden became super popular. Like a couple of months ago, it started for some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe it just feels to me like this, but yeah, it's a good way to keep the ideas for the Sicilian, even as a black, what the ideas are, because yeah, I watched it, I enjoyed it a lot, and I finally get the point of all the opening ideas for black here. Yeah, Svitlana, this was it already. It was a nice lesson as always, and I hope we see each other next week again. And for you at home, see you soon for Svitlana's newest moves. Bye bye.